Hello, good evening, everybody. So today we are beginning with a new YouTube live session where we're going to past CAT year paper, which is CAT 2023, and we are specifically going to discuss the odd one out questions. So in CAT 2023, there were 6 questions in all, 2 in slot 1, 2 in slot 2, and 2 questions in. So 2 questions each slot. And this is what we are going to trace today. Understand the questions, read them together, and try and solve them, right? I'll quickly share the PPT so that you guys can have a look at the questions. All right. I believe the PPT is visible to you. Let me just check. Yes, the PPT is visible. Okay, so let's begin. Now, remember, again, the directions of the questions are very important. I told you in the previous session also, last Monday when we did para-jumbles, the directions are almost the same. It's just the last line that tells you what you have to do. So 5 jumbled up sentences labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 related to a topic are given below. 4 of them can be put together to form a coherent paragraph. Identify the odd sentence and key in the number of that sentence as your answer. Right now, if it is a para-jumble question, then it will ask you to find a sequence and punch in the sequence. So be very careful whether you are attempting an odd one out question or a para-jumble question, because a lot of students under exam pressure mix up these questions. Okay, let's move to the first question, slot 1. Okay. Having an appreciation for the workings of another person's mind is considered a prerequisite for natural language acquisition, strategic social interaction, reflexive thought, and moral judgment. It's a theory of mind, though some scholars prefer to call it mentalizing or mind reading, which is important for the development of one's cognitive abilities. Though we must speculate about its evolutionary origin, we do have indications that the capacity evolved sometime in the last few million years. This capacity develops from early beginning in the first year of life to the adult's fast and often effortless understanding of others' thoughts, feelings, and intentions. One of the most fascinating human capacities is the ability to perceive and interpret other people's behavior in terms of their mental state. Now, let's decode it. Let's understand the sentences and what we have to do. All right. Now, most of the sentences here focus on explaining and elaborating the concept of understanding others' mental state, right? Except in sentence number 2, which says it's a theory of mind, though some scholars prefer to call it mentalizing or mind reading, right? Now, sentence 2 provides more of a meta discussion about terminology being used to describe this capacity rather than directly contributing to explanation of the topic, right? Apart from sentence number 2, we can notice that in sentence number 1, 3, 4, and 5, all these 4 sentences contribute to the substantive discussion of the capacity to perceive and interpret other people's behavior in terms of the mental state and other things especially the ability to perceive and interpret people's behavior. Now, notice how sentence number, so I'll write it over here, how sentence number 5 introduces the human capacity. One of the most fascinating human capacities, what I'm talking about over here, let's focus on this, of human capacities is the ability to perceive and interpret other people's behavior in terms of their mental state. And then one explains its importance when it says having an appreciation for the working of other person's mind is considered a prerequisite for natural language acquisition, strategic social interaction, reflective thought, and moral judgment. Right? So 5 introduces the topic of discussion, which is human capacity. Sentence number 1 explains its importance. Okay. Sentence number 4, please notice, describes its development from infancy to adulthood. What does sentence number 4 says? Its capacity. Whose capacity? Human capacities जो हमने discuss करी. So this capacity is what we are talking about. This capacity मतलब हम human capacity के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. This capacity develops from early beginning in the first year of life to adults fast, often effortless understanding of others' thoughts, feelings. Right? So sentence number 4, talks about the development of this capacity. Now, it is possible that we may put the sequence as 5 and 4, where 5 talks about human capacity and then 4 says this capacity develops. And then after that comes sentence number 1, where sentence number 1 explains the importance of that capacity. Whichever way, remember this is not a para-jumble question. Okay? And then sentence number 3 says, though we must speculate about its evolutionary origin, we do have indications that the capacity, again, notice the word, we're still talking about the capacity, evolved sometime in the last few million years. So sentence number 3 broadens the discussion to its evolutionary origin. Now, this creates a very clean, neat movement. There's an introduction of the topic, then there's significance, there's development, and then there's evolution. So 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 1, and 3. Whichever is the sequence, either this or this, right? Please notice when sentence number 2 says it's a theory of mind, though some scholars prefer to call it mentalizing on mind reading, which is important for the development of one's cognitive abilities, right? Now, 2 problems are happen. 1, sentence number 2 suddenly introduces terminologies, right? And number 2, it contains a scholarly, concept aside about naming preferences, because it says though some scholars prefer to call it. So theory of mind, mentalizing, mind reading. नई terminology आ गई है. Now this makes it slightly meta discursive. So instead of advancing the idea, it pauses to label and debate vocabulary. Now remember this, and this is important, that CAT often treats such terminology insertions, sentences, as detachable ornaments. So these sentences can be removed from the paragraph. Now, as a question setter also, understand, ये किसी भी क्वेश्चन सेटर ने सेंटेंसेस तभी की तभी लिखे नहीं है. उन्होंने इन सेंटेंसेस को किसी एक पैसेज से पिकअप करा, एक पैराग्राफ के 4 सेंटेंसेस ले लिए और उसी आर्टिकल के किसी और पैराग्राफ से एक और सेंटेंस पिकअप करके इंसर्ट कर दिया, राइट? It's not that this paragraph is out of context in the sense कि किसी और ही टॉपिक के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. No, it's talking about the same topic. But is this sentence relevant when it comes to understanding the entire coherence of the paragraph? No. Sentence number 2 is certainly out of context. So I repeat again, क्यों है out of context? theory of mind, mentalizing, mind reading, alternative terms को use कर रहा है, unlike other sentences which focuses on explaining and elaborating the concept of understanding and others' mental state. Sentence 2 provides more of a meta discussion about the terminology. Other sentence contribute to, substantive discussion of the capacity to perceive and interpret other people's behavior in terms of their mental state, in terms of their, behavior, thoughts and feelings. And therefore, sentence number 2 is out of context. Right? Let's check our answers. Yeah. चलो, next question पे आते हैं. In English, there is no systematic rule for the naming of numbers. After 10, we have 11 and 12, and then the teens, 13, 14, 15, and so on. Even more confusingly, some English words invert the numbers they prefer to. The word 14 puts the 4 first, even though it appears last. As in when we write 14, 1, 4, 4 comes after 1. And yet we put the 4 first, right? It can take children a while to learn all these words and understand that 14 is different from 14. For multiples of 10, English speakers switch to a different pattern. 20, 30, 40, and so on. If you didn't know the word for 11, you would be unable to just guess it. You might come up with something like 1 teen instead of the word 11. Now, in all these sentences, right from sentence number 1 to sentence number 5, sorry, I just revealed the answer by mistake. But hold on, I've lost my pen actually. I have to activate it again. Yeah. Now, let's look at question number 2. So, a coherent paragraph can be formed from all these sentences. Now, step 1, kya hai? Sentence 1 introduces the central idea. In English, there is no systematic rule for naming numbers, right? So we have after 10, we have 11 and 12 and then the teens. So sentence 1 ने हमें एक central idea दी दिया. ठीक. Then उसके बाद it says कि बहुत irregularity है, काफी confusing है. अब यहाँ पर ये जो unpredictability है, ये जो irregularity है, इसके बारे में sentence 1 के बाद कहाँ बात की है? sentence number 5 में बात. Example दिया है उस irregularity का. So sentence 5 is an example of that irregularity. You can call it an example, you can call it an illustration, right? So sentence 5 tells you कि अगर आपको actually में 11 word नहीं पता तो शायद आप उसको 1 teen बोल दो. And this happens because of the irregularity which is there. Okay? So sentence number 5 directly supports what is given, the claim which is given in sentence number 1. That says that English naming is unsystematic. The paragraph is now building an idea. English number words are irregular and unpredictable, and then sentence number 5 gives an example of that unpredictability. अब sentence number 2 जो है वो continue कर रही है इसी thought को. Sentence number 2 इसी thought को continue कर रही है. उसने बोला, notice करो, even more confusingly, some English words invert the numbers they refer to. तो अभी तक हमने सिर्फ बोला कि जिसको नहीं पता है वो unable to guess होगा, unable to just guess it. फिर हमने बोला कि वो कंफ्यूज हो जाएगा, और फिर हमने सेंटेंस नंबर 2 में बोला इवन मोर कंफ्यूजिंगली, अब उसने और कंफ्यूजिंगली बता दिया कि sentence 2 continues with the same line where it says 14 puts 4 first, though it appears last. This deepens the discussion by showing another irregularity as an example, as an illustration. Not only are number names in English unpredictable, there is a structure in counterintuitive too. So this happens now, which explains the continuity of that discussion. And then it shifts to tense का patterns. अभी तक उसने 14 पैटर्न की बात करी है, उससे पहले 11 पैटर्न की बात करी है, और अब उसने अगला पैटर्न डिस्कस किया सेंटेंस नंबर 4 में, जहां उसने बोला उसने एक और इलस्ट्रेशन दिया, फॉर मल्टीपल्स ऑफ 10 इंग्लिश स्पीकर्स स्विच टू different pattern 20, 30, 40 and so on. So the paragraph develops very neatly. Irregular teens है, तीन वर्ड्स हैं, फिर अनप्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी है, इन्वर्जन का कंफ्यूजन है, जहां पे लिखते तो 1 4 14 है, लेकिन 14 में 4 पहले आता है, 3 बाद में आता है, एंड देन टेंस का पैटर्न एक बड़ा क्लियर लिंग्विस्टिक स्टेयरकेस टाइप का क्रिएट होता है यहाँ पर, राइट? नाउ व्हाई इज सेंटेंस नंबर 3 ऑड वन आउट? हमने यहाँ तक तो पैटर्न बना लिया 1 5 2 4, ओके, बट अब सेंटेंस नंबर 3 में प्रॉब्लम क्या है? सेंटेंस नंबर 3 में प्रॉब्लम ये है that it says it can take children a while to learn all these words and understand that 14 is different from 40. Now sentence number 3 shifts from the English numbers are structured to children learning them. तो अभी तक हम इंग्लिश नंबर्स की क्या स्ट्रक्चर है, कितनी इरेगुलरिटी है स्पेलिंग शिफ्ट में, इसके बारे में बात कर रहे थे, बट अब हम बात कर रहे हैं कि बच्चों को भी प्रॉब्लम होती है इन वर्ड्स को याद करने में और समझने में. So now we are changing the central idea from language structure to learning difficulty. ये एक बहुत बड़ा शिफ्ट और पैटर्न है. Also notice the other 4 sentences are all about the system itself, the system of spellings in English, right? While sentence number 3 introduces a different subject altogether, which is children's acquisition. तो अभी तक हम स्ट्रक्चरल डिस्कशन कर रहे थे, अब हम साइकोलॉजिकल कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस देख रहे हैं कि इतने मुश्किल है स्ट्रक्चर, तो ऑब्वियसली स्टूडेंट्स को दिक्कत होती होगी, राइट? नाउ I'll quickly sum up. So sentence number 3 is the odd one out because it introduces a different topic compared to other sentences. While other sentences focus on naming pattern of the numbers in English, especially the irregularities and variations in the system, sentence number 3 shifts the focus to the learning process of children and their understanding of the differences between numbers 14 and 40, right? The other sentences contribute to the discussion about the intricacies of English number naming system, okay, making sentence 3 less aligned with the central theme of the passage. And therefore, option number 3 is our answer, and sentence number 3 we can surely say is the odd one out over here. I hope I've been able to explain the question clearly. Okay, let's come to question number 3. Let's just read it together. The banning of northern lights could be considered a precursor to, hold on guys, screen gets blocked because of the image, as a precursor to censoring books for moral, worldview or religious reasons. हम बात कर रहे हैं northern lights की, banning of northern lights. For the uninitiated, this is the name of a book. आपको आगे sentences पढ़ के पता चल जाएगा, right? Attempts to ban books are attempts to silence authors who have summoned immense courage in telling their stories. Now, the banning and the challenging of books in the US has escalated to an unprecedented level. The widely acclaimed fantasy novel Northern Lights, and we are talking about it again, was banned in some parts of the US and was the second most challenged book in the US. The American Library Association documented an unparalleled number of reported book challenges in 2022, about 2,500 unique patents. Okay, what a beautiful question, what a simple question it is. Now, let's understand the paragraph. Sentence number 4, first of all, introduces Northern Lights as the novel. The widely acclaimed fantasy novel, और हमें पता चल गया हम किस चीज के बारे में particularly यहाँ बात कर रहे थे. Northern Lights was banned in some parts of the US and was the second most challenged book. Second most challenged book in the US. So sentence number 4 ने introduce कर दिया, right? Specific example से शुरू किया है, तो specific to general की तरफ thought flow जा रहा है, where it tells us that Northern Lights was banned and it was the second most challenged book in the US. This gives us a concrete incidence of a book being banned in US. Okay. Now, sentence number 1 gives an interpretation of that, ban, where it says the banning of Northern Lights could be considered a precursor to censor books for moral, worldview, or religious reasons. It can be considered a precursor, which is to understand. So sentence number 1 क्या कर रहा है? Sentence number 1 जो है sentence number 4 को refer करता है, where sentence 4 introduces the banning and sentence number 1 refers back to it using the banning of Northern Lights. This pair is welded together logically, है ना? हमने यहाँ पे बात करी sentence number 4 में widely acclaimed fantasy novel Northern Lights was banned. Same thought flow यहाँ चला गया. So sentence number 4 and 1 make a mandatory pair, a clear mandatory pair. Now आगे चलते हैं, sentence number 3 को देखते हैं. Now the banning and it says now the banning and challenging of books in the US has escalated. Okay? The keyword now signals a movement. कहाँ से कहाँ तक? From the past to the present. From the past to the present. So पहले हम एक earlier case के बारे में बात कर रहे थे और now it is moving to a broader present day phenomenon. हमने शुरू करा past से और अब हम बात करें now की. There's a clear chronology. Now the banning and challenging of books in the US has escalated to an unprecedented level, right? And then comes sentence number 5. What does sentence number 5 says? Let's read it. The American Library Association documented an unparalleled number of reported book challenges in 2022 और उसने number दिया है. एक individual केस से अब वो एक जनरल केस के ऊपर आ गए कि एक नहीं बहुत सारी बुक्स 2022 में चैलेंज की गई. ठीक है. So 3 makes sentence number 3 makes a claim. क्या claim है? Banning and challenging of books in the US has escalated to an unprecedented level. What is that unprecedented level? That in 2022 about 2,500 unique titles were challenged. Okay. Now out of all this, sentence number 2 के साथ क्या problem है? Sentence number 2 देखते हैं. Sentence number 2 बात कर रहा है. Attempt to ban books are attempts to silence books. Now understand this. This sentence 1 moves from factual sentences to something which is moral, emotional, and evaluative, right? Whereas the other 4 sentences talk about examples. They are talking about the interpretation, the trend. They're giving an evidence, right? Like I said, they're factual. Sentence number 2 shifts the focus from discussing the phenomena of the book banning to condemning the book banning ethically. So अभी हम factual से हम एक moral compass की तरफ आ गए हैं. हम factual compass से हम एक ethical compass की तरफ आ गए हैं. The tonal shift makes sentence number 2 odd one out, and hence the answer to this question should be option number 2. Okay? और भी बहुत clear subtle clues हैं समझो. बाकी के चारों सेंटेंसेस 4, 1, 3, 5 बहुत thoroughly tightly connected हैं, where Northern Lights को इंट्रोड्यूस करा, बैनिंग ऑफ Northern Lights के बारे में बात करी है उसने, राइट? फिर उसने नाउ वर्ड यूज करके एस्केलेशन मेंशन किया है, और सेंटेंस नंबर 5 जो है वो उसका एक स्टेटिस्टिकल एविडेंस प्रोवाइड कर रहा है. Sentence number 2 is the odd one out because it introduces a broader statement about attempts to ban the book, silence authors, right? So, बहुत general ethical viewpoint है. And therefore, sentence number 2 is out of context. I hope you have understood the question well. Okay, let's move to the next question. Question number 4. Now, guys, I have solved 3 questions with you where I've given you a sequence also. Now, in the next 3 questions, I want you to find out the sequence for yourself. I'll discuss the question. I'll give you the odd one out answer. Why is this an answer? We'll reason that out also. But as a self-reflection, as an extra practice for you, please go back and refer to question number 4, 5, and 6. And, find out the sequence to these 3 questions. Sure. Let's read the question. Okay. So sentence number 1 says, self-care particularly links to loneliness, behavioral problems, and negative academic outcomes. किस चीज के बारे में बात हुई है सेंटेंस में? सेल्फ केयर के बारे में बात. वो लिंक कर रहा है सेल्फ केयर को लोनलीनेस से, बिहेवियरल प्रॉब्लम्स से, और नेगेटिव एकेडमिक आउटकम्स. नेगेटिव एकेडमिक आउटकम्स मतलब अच्छा नहीं कर रहा है कोई, एकेडमिकली अच्छा नहीं कर रहा है. Latchkey children refer to children who routinely return home from school to empty homes and take care of themselves for extended periods of time. Although self-care generally points to negative outcomes, it is important to consider that the bulk of research has yet to track long-term consequences. In research and practice, the phrase children in self-care has come to replace latchkey in an effort to more accurately reflect the nature of their circumstances. And sentence 5 says, although parents might believe that self-care would be beneficial for development, recent research has found quite the opposite. Right? Now, read all these sentences carefully and understand. There's a perspective that comes out about self-care and about latchkey children. Okay? These are the 2 terms that are used. Now, while most of the sentences discuss the negative outcomes associated with self-care in children, notice how sentence number 3 suggests a need to consider that the bulk of research has yet to track long-term consequences. When it says it is important to consider that the bulk of research has yet to track long-term consequences. ये consequences की बात कर रहा है. कौन से consequences? Long-term consequences की बात कर रहा है. Now, this sentence introduces a more neutral or a balanced viewpoint that doesn't align with the general theme of other sentences, which is actually focusing on the negative aspects of self-care in children. Right? So, the remaining sentences, which is sentence number 1, 2, 4, and 5, can be put together to form a coherent paragraph discussing the concept of self-care in relation to children, particularly those referred to as latchkey children. Okay. So sentence number 1, 2, 4, and 5 are referring to something which is an outcome of a negative. The tone of the sentences is also negative. But sentence number 3 is the only sentence which has a different perspective. And therefore, because it introduces a different perspective, जहाँ वो बोल रहा है कि it is important to consider that the bulk of research has yet to track long-term consequences. तो एक बहुत balanced, neutral approach पे आ गया है. Again, the tonality of the sentences change. And therefore, sentence number 3 is the one which is odd one out. Like I said, guys, I request you to attempt question number 4 and attempt this question like a parajumble question now. Now, since you know sentence number 3 is the odd one out, हटा दो sentence number 3 को. And 1, 2, 4, 5 के बीच में parajumble solve करके come back to me, write your answers in the comment section, and I'll let you know whether your answers are correct or incorrect. Okay, let's come to the second last question. It says Boa Senior, who lived through the 2004 tsunami, the Japanese occupation and disease brought by British settlers, was the last native of the island chain who was fluent in Go. The indigenous population has been steadily collapsing since the island chain was colonized by British settlers in 1858 and used for most of the following 100 years as a colonial penal colony. Taking its name from now extinct tribe, Bo is one of the 10 great Annamese languages which are thought to date back to pre-Neolithic human settlement of Southeast Asia. The last speaker of an ancient tribal language has died in Andaman Islands, breaking a 65,000-year link to one of the world's oldest cultures. Though the language has been closely studied by researchers of, hold on, let me clear my screen, researchers of linguistic history, Boa Senior spent the last few years of her life unable to converse with anyone in her village, okay, in her mother tongue. Now, have you noticed that while reading sentence number 2, which says the indigenous population has been steadily collapsing since the island chain was colonized by British settlers in 1858 and used for most of the following 100 years as a colonial penal colony. Are we talking about Boa Senior? Are we talking about Bo, the language? What are we talking about? Sentence number 2 doesn't fit well with other sentences, which focuses on the language Bo and its native speakers. Let's look at the other sentences. The other sentences provide information about the language, its history, and the last fluent speaker, creating a coherent narrative. Who was the last fluent speaker? Boa Senior. She was the last fluent speaker. So sentence number 2 introduces a different topic about the decline of indigenous population. है ना? Steadily collapsing बोला उसने. So sentence number 2 introduces a different topic about the decline of indigenous population without directly contributing to the discussion about tribal language and its last speaker. देखो, हमने यहाँ पे बोआ सीनियर के बारे में बात की है और फ्लुएंट इन बो बोला है उसको. फिर now extinct tribe Bo, Annamese language, right? Pre-Neolithic human settlement के बारे में बात की है. Last speaker of an ancient tribal language again. देखो उसी tribal language के बारे में बात हुई है और यहाँ पे भी हम बोआ सीनियर के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. सारे sentences जो हैं वो उस language के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, उसकी history, उसके fluent speaker के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. Except sentence number 2. Sentence number 2 has completely introduced a new topic. which is the decline of the indigenous population, and it's not contributing to the tribal language and its last speaker. And therefore, sentence number 2 is the sentence which is odd one out. That should be your answer. All right. Please go back and attempt these 4 sentences like I said in the last question as well. Now you know sentence number 2 is out of context. Please attempt question number 1, 3, 4 and 5. Tell me what should be the pattern, what should be the flow of the sentences. Unjumble the paragraph and we'll discuss the answers. Okay. Last question for today. Although hard skills have traditionally ruled the roost, some companies are moving away from choosing prospective hires based on technical abilities alone. Some companies are moving away from choosing prospective hires based on technical abilities alone, which means कि hiring companies जो है वो सिर्फ technical abilities को देख करके नहीं खाली hire कर रही है. Companies are shaking off the old definition of the ideal candidate and ditching the idea of looking for singularly perfect candidate altogether. Some job descriptions are frequently asking for candidates to demonstrate soft skills such as leadership or teamwork. That's not to say that practical know-how is no longer required. Some jobs still call for highly specific expertise. The move towards prioritizing soft skills is a natural response to 3 years of the pandemic, says a senior recruiter at Sunler FS. A very, very simple question like the previous one, guys. बहुत clearly consistency दिख रही है हमें. हम, sentence number 1, 3, 4 and 5. All these sentences discuss changes in hiring practice. देखो. It talks about choosing prospective hires based on technical abilities. Sentence number 3 भी यही बोल रहा है. Some job descriptions are frequently asking for candidates to demonstrate soft skills such as leadership or teamwork. Sentence 4 को देखो. That's not to say that the practical know-how is no longer required. Some jobs still call for highly specific expertise. The move towards prioritizing soft skills is a natural response. और ये किसी की बात को कोट करा है, illustrate करने के लिए, support करने. So sentence number 1, 3, 4 and 5 all discuss changes in hiring practices, the importance of soft skills, they talk about and the response to the pandemic, creating a coherent narrative. In contrast, sentence number 2, introducing a more general idea about redefining the ideal candidate without specifically addressing the shift towards prioritizing soft skills, leadership skills, teamwork, making it an odd one out in the context of the paragraph. Please understand, sentence number 2 is odd because it does not directly contribute to the theme of, what is the theme? The theme is a shift in hiring priorities towards soft skills. So, लोग hire तो कर रहे हैं, लेकिन specific expertise के अलावा भी उनको soft skill चाहिए और वो बहुत अलग-अलग, चीजों को देख रहे हैं, सिर्फ technical expertise को नहीं देख रहे हैं. Sentence number 2 बोल रहा है, companies are shaking off. Look at this word, shaking off the old definition of an ideal candidate and ditching the idea of looking for the singularly perfect candidate together. ये वाला जो सेंटेंस है ये कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं कर रहा. किसको? doesn't contribute to the theme of the para, and hence sentence number 2 is the odd one out. For question number 6 again, now you know because 2 is the odd one out. I request you to find out the sequence for sentence number 1, 3, 4 and 5 and punch in your answer in the chat box. So question number 4, 5 and 6. Please punch in your answers so that we understand and practice para jumbles as well as out of context questions very well. Thank you so much, guys. That's it for today. I hope I was able to explain the questions logically to you. Yes, all from question number 1, 2, 3, if we solve our odd one out questions this way, where we unjumble the paragraph while solving it, the explanation and the interest becomes better. And hence, my suggestion, my personal suggestion to you is that when you attempt an odd one out question, that is the right way to attempt it. Go ahead and jumble the paragraph, find out the odd one sentence, and you would never make a mistake in the exam. All the best, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.